This is their commercial, fancy schmancy commercial. We can't even compete with their production values. This is their commercial advertising their upcoming conference in Chicago next month. In English, telling the world exactly what they want to do, reviving the caliphate, a new world order, calling on the Ummah to rise. This organization recruits boys between the age of 9 and 18 years old into jihad. And we wonder why we are seeing all this rise in homegrown terrorism in the United States. Why are they going to be afraid if we have an administration who doesn't even think that we have a problem? Our administration right now is so deep infiltrated with radical Islamists who are linked to this organization, it will shock you. The Muslim Brotherhood is so organized worldwide that Al-Qaeda is only one out of the 70 Islamic organizations, like Hizb al-Tahrir that I just showed you their commercial, all over the world. One, we only hear about Al-Qaeda because Al-Qaeda affects us. What about the other organizations? What about Hezbollah? Do you know that Hezbollah alone, in the state of Texas alone, has 2,500 active terrorists operating in the state of Texas? Notice I didn't mention Al-Qaeda, I mentioned Hezbollah because a lot of people think Hezbollah is over there. They're not here, that's Israel's problem, who cares? Hezbollah alone has 2,500 active terrorists operating in the state of Texas, according to the SWAT teams of Texas, which I spoke at their conference last year. This is who they are monitoring. Just imagine, if this is happening in Yeehaw state of Texas, I mean, this is the heartbeat of America right here, just imagine what's happening in the rest of the country. The Muslim Brotherhood is so organized that in 1982, they wrote a 100-year plan for radical Islam to infiltrate and dominate the West and establish an Islamic government on earth. In the counterterrorism circles, this document became known as the Project. And the project is so important because they give tactics and proposals as to how to infiltrate the West in detail. They talk about avoiding open alliances with known terrorist organizations and individuals to maintain the appearance of moderation. They talk about building extensive social networks of schools, hospitals, charitable organizations dedicated to Islamist ideals. They talk about involving ideologically elected Muslims in all levels in the West, including institutions, government, NGOs, private organizations, and labor unions. They talk about working and instituting alliances with, quote, like-minded progressive organizations that share similar goals. They mean, you know, the America haters, the America loathers, so they can use them as useful idiots. The plan that I'm talking about is this plan. It's a Muslim Brotherhood plan for North America. This is the North America version. It's called مذكرة تفسيرية للهدف الاستراتيجي العام في أمريكا الشمالية. I don't expect you to understand that, but this is the title of the Muslim Brotherhood Project. This was written in 22/5/1991. This is the America plan. And this plan was presented as evidence in the Holy Land Foundation trial in Texas when our government took the Holy Land Foundation to trial to prove that it was a front to terrorists. Like I mentioned in the plan, they talk about setting up different charitable organizations. After September 11th, the United States government identified 27 Islamic charities as front cover for terrorist organizations. Our government only took the Holy Land trial, the Holy Land Foundation to trial here in Texas. How many of you know about the Holy Land Foundation trial? Raise your hand. Wow. And I am speaking in Texas. By the way, the trial ended with a 108 verdict against the Holy Land Foundation, which raised $160 million, raised in $150 donations, which is the price for a suicide belt, for a suicide bomber, and sent it overseas from moderate, wonderful, loving American Muslims that gave the money to this organization. This was presented as evidence in the state of Texas in the Holy Land Foundation trial. At the end of this document, in the last page, they list about the organizations that they were setting up as front for their arm in the United States. And I'm not going to mention all of them. There are 29 different organizations on this list. And right now we have about 70 in the United States. Remember, this was written in 1991. They have become much more empowered since then. The names of this list are, and you probably have heard some of them, ISNA, the Islamic Society of North America, you see them all the time interviewed on CNN and different organizations. They actually counsel the president on Islamic affairs. MSA, the Muslim Student Association. The MSA, the Muslim Student Associations, now has more chapters on college campuses than the Republicans and the Democrats combined.
Come on.
NATE, the North American Islamic Trust, which owns over 90% of the mosques in the United States. IAP, which started as the Islamic Association for Palestine, which birthed CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. Many of you have probably heard their names as well. They are advisors to the president on Islamic affairs. These are the organizations that our president right now calls and consults with them and talks to them about representing the United States. The infiltration is happening not only through this type in our country, through the Muslim Brotherhood Project. The infiltration is happening also through the mosques in our country. Over 90% of the mosques in the United States are funded by the government of Saudi Arabia. And they are teaching such fine education, such as, and this is, by the way, taken out of a mosque in Houston, one of your biggest mosques. It talks about to hate for Allah's sake. It talks about overthrowing democracy. They say that democracy is responsible for all the horrible wars of the 20th century, and that attractive names like democracy, justice, freedom, brotherhood, and equality cause all of the world's problems. They say that it is the religious duty of every Muslim to impose a functionally Islamic government on every country in the world. This is what's being taught in mosques around the United States. The Mapping Sharia project went into mosques all over the United States last year, and they found out that 7 out of 10 mosques in America are teaching this type of education. And this is what is contributing to the rise of homegrown terrorism. We have a problem in this country. We have a major problem in this country, and this is why we are addressing these issues with you right now tonight. I believe political correctness is killing us, and I believe we need to throw it in the garbage where it belongs. Yeah, baby. Thank you, thank you. Check your sensitivity sleeves out. Brigitte Gabriel is in the house. I believe this is the time we need to start calling a spade before we lose our country. I believe political correctness is the shackles around our ankles by which Islamists are leading us to our demise. And I believe we need to hold our elected officials accountable to their actions. What made America great is not cowards at the helm, but brave men who fought for this nation to give us what we have today. They were not intimidated. They were not afraid. They spoke the truth. They laid everything on the line. Our founding fathers died mostly broke, almost all of them, to give us the country that we have today. The least we can do is stand up for the truth to save our country. I am so sick and tired of people biting their tongue and holding their tongue and afraid of their shadows. I didn't come to the home of the brave to be around cowards. I came to be around heroes. I am offended when I hear people talk. I'm a Vietnamese American, and I'm an Italian American, and I'm an African American, and I'm a Spanish American. I am nothing